The price of freedom is death. We're coming to get our check.
Black first, my brothers and my sisters. Welcome to the Afro Elite YouTube channel. I am your host, Afro Elite. We have a very, very special broadcast for you tonight. But before we get started, please make sure that you guys are subscribed by hitting that subscribe button, hitting the notification bell, leaving a thumbs up, and sharing this on your various social media platforms because that helps the reach and the growth of the channel. And tonight we have a very special guest with us. Now, before we go, let me let you guys know how special this guest is. I'm going to read a little bit of his resume, his bio, a little bit of it, just so you guys can have an understanding and an appreciation for the special guest that we have coming on tonight. So we have special guest Dr. Clyde Winters. Now, Dr. Clyde Winters has a PhD in educator, okay, educational psychologist, anthropologist, and linguist, okay. He has taught all grade levels from elementary school up to the universities. Dr. Winter formerly taught education and linguist at St. Xavier University in Chicago. That's not a small deal. Also, Governor State University in Illinois. Okay, these are two big, very popular universities in the Chicago and Illinois area. Okay, he's taught for 46 years. There's a lot of people in the chat not even 46 years old. He's taught for 46 years in the Chicago public schools. At the CPS, Dr. Winters wrote the 6th grade history lessons plan in 1998, and CPS social science curriculum, a common core social studies lesson. That's a big deal. Not only is he teaching, he's not just a everyday regular teacher, he's actually writing the curriculum. He's actually in the schools writing the curriculum. He's been doing this work as far as teaching and educating for longer than I've been alive, okay? And longer than a lot of other people have been alive, period. So he's very experienced in that. But I'm not done reading off some of his resume a little bit. All right. He also has published and written numerous books. Okay. And I got a lot of those in the description. So you guys should definitely go check those out. About anthropology, language education, and population genetics. And he's written articles as well, too. Many of these articles have appeared in peer-reviewed journals and in online. So it's not like he's just making the science fiction. This isn't what they call that pseudoscience. These are reviews, these are articles and research that has been cited by credited websites that use certain sources that we get our we cite sources from. We cite Peer Review and they cite him. So just to let you know how thorough he is. His work has appeared in the Journal of Black Studies, African History, Journal of African Civilization, Adolescents, International Review of Education, Threshold in Education, TC Records, Bioessay, International Journal of Human Genetics, and and other genetic studies, just to name a few. All right. So we're talking about Chicago mainly, but I want you guys to understand that this individual, this doctor right here, is more educated on just Chicago public schools or teaching in just the United States in general. I just want you guys to understand what level of intelligence we have in the building with us this evening. So without any further ado, let me introduce you guys. I mean, he's been here before, but let me bring on our very special and much respected guest, Dr. Clyde Winters. Dr. Winters, how are you today? How are you this evening?
I'm fine, and how are you? How are you today, Afro Elite?
I'm good. I'm doing pretty good. I'm glad that you're back with us this evening.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here too. Today was a sunny day here in Chicagoland.
It was.
I was able to go out and I was able to go out and get my melanosynthesis. Melanosynthesis. I know a lot of you have heard about photosynthesis. And photosynthesis is how plants get energy from the sun. Well, black people get energy from the sun too, but we go through a melanosynthesis process. And what melanosynthesis process is that as the sun shines, the sun, is picked up by the melanocytes in your blood system, which gives us this dark, beautiful dark or yellow or red bone complexion. And it's got me really, really excited. It's got me almost so stimulated, man. I feel like I could go run, but I'm sorry. I can't run like I used to. But I'm very excited. Any sunny day. Melanosynthesis. We had to work that out.
Okay. Well, that's good. The weather's getting better, the sun is out. So it's time for black people to get out there, get some sunshine, get to the beach, go out to the park, jog outside or whatever, get that sunshine, get that good energy. It's going to be good for the skin and good for your body.
You got to get out of the house.
Absolutely. Now, to start off, we're going to be reading this article. I'm going to be reading it, and Dr. Winters is going to give us his takes as we go along with it. And then we're going to have other follow-up questions about the school system in Chicago and then kind of just in the United States in general. But we're going to start off right now with this article from WTTW saying nearly 1/5 of Chicago public schools to see budget cuts amid enrollment declines. Okay. Now it goes off saying nearly 20% of Chicago public schools will see their budget flatline or drop in the fall, according to a proposal unveiled by district leaders Tuesday. The district's overall budget, which was $9.4 billion in 2013 and 2023, will be essentially unchanged in 2024, with officials planning to spend an additional $150 million next year, mostly to add instructors in special education classes and in the, quote, highest need schools. Chicago Public Schools CEO Pedro Martinez told reporters. Roughly half as many schools have to cope with flatline budgets or cuts in 2024 than this year, when approximately 40% of schools did not see an increase or cuts, officials said. Between 2019 and 2022, CPS, that's Chicago Public Schools, CPS lost nearly 37,000 students. 10%, okay, so 37,000 students is pretty much 10% of its total enrollment, a trend that is expected to continue. Scrolling down a little bit, it continues to say, the budget for the 2024 fiscal year, unveiled about a month before Mayor-elect Brandon Johnson is set to take office, continues that the district calls student-based budgeting, which links most of a school's budget to its enrollment by giving each school on average $12,743 for each student, according to the proposal. Schools will get approximately $985 more per student as part of their budget for the next academic year, with schools on the south and west sides with mostly Black and Latino students getting their increases, according to the budget proposal. Quote, that there needs that's where it needs to be, Martinez says. Scrolling down a little bit more, Johnson, they're talking about Brandon Johnson. Johnson said student-based budgeting, begun under former Mayor Rahm Emanuel and continued by Mayor Lori Lightfoot, has, quote, had a devastating impact on our schools and called for it to end. A former middle school teacher, that's because Brandon Johnson was a former middle school teacher, so you guys know. A former middle school teacher, Johnson worked as an organizer for the Chicago Teachers Union before being elected twice to the Cook County Board of Commissioners. Since student-based budgeting began, schools have seen their enrollment drop. Schools have seen their enrollment drop, have had to cut programs and staff to make ends meet, which often worsens their problems by making it impossible for them to attract new students. Small schools considered under enrollment by a CPS will get 55 million as part of the 2024 budget to ensure that they can offer robust programs, an increase of 5 million from 2023, officials said. Scrolling down, it says a spokesman for Johnson declined to comment on the proposed CPS budget, saying the mayor-elect is preparing to address the General Assembly in Springfield on Wednesday. Martinez said the 2024 CPS budget will reduce schools' late reliance on funding ties to enrollment because it, quote, shortchanges small schools. The proposed budget would, quote, continue to move away from student-based budgeting, he added. Approximately 43% of each school's budget will be tied to the number of students it enrolls, a reduction of 3% from the 2023 budget, according to the proposal. Martinez said CPS officials wanted to take a, quote, thoughtful approach. You say something?
No.
Okay. Martinez said CPS officials wanted to take a, quote, thoughtful approach to the way the district is funded before imposing wholesale changes, even as he acknowledged its significant shortcomings. Continuing, it says Martinez declined to answer a question from WTTW News about whether he would ask Johnson to keep him in his role as the head of the nation's fourth largest school district, but said he was, quote, optimistic about working with Johnson, whom he called a, quote, champion for public education. In 2024, the 2024 budget will continue setting aside 15 million to allow 131 schools on the south and west sides to hire an additional counselor, as well as 45 million to offer teachers in many of those schools additionally coaching and professional development, Martinez said. CPS 2024 budget will be one of the last to draw on a significant amount of federal aid designed to help the district withstand the impact of, now I say C119 because that word is kind of like a flag word, but we're talking about the pandemic from a couple years ago. So the cough cough pandemic. The district expects to face a $623 million budget gap in the 2025-2026 school year, officials say. It continues. Under the state's education funding formula, Chicago schools are due an additional $1.4 billion to serve the city's students, according to the CPS and state officials. In addition, if state funds paid for teachers' pensions, as they do every other school district, CPS would have an additional $552 million to fund schools, according to the proposal. In addition, while suburban and downstate school districts can ask voters to raise taxes via referendum to cover the cost to build new facilities or repair aging buildings, CPS must borrow to fund those costs. That will cost the district an additional $540 million in debt service, according to the proposal. Martinez said he and other district leaders will work to convince the state to, quote, fulfill its commitment to CPS so that so that our families and our district can thrive. Now it says the final 2020, this is it. The final 2024 CPS budget is expected to be approved this summer before students return on August 21st. So that's the end there.
Okay, it's very comprehensive article, but you have to understand that Rahm Emanuel and Lightfoot, they've been a disaster for the Chicago public schools. First of all, the thing is this: is that Rahm Emanuel, he didn't grow up in Chicago; he grew up in the suburbs. Lightfoot, she came, I think, from Ohio or somewhere out there. And so, see, when these foreigners came to Chicago, they destroyed everything, everything. You see, because the point is this: is that the Chicago public schools has always had difficulties. But one of the things that made the Chicago public schools work was the fact that many of the leaders of the Chicago public schools grew up in Chicago. Since they grew up in Chicago, they kind of knew what should take place to make the city a little bit better. And see, this is very important to understand. See, what Rahm Emanuel and I wonder what that is. I don't understand what that's all about. But Rahm Emanuel and Lightfoot, what they did is they saw in a sense the Board of Education as a money-making institution. In other words, they went about building schools, new schools, when they had already closed a lot of schools in 2013. They closed a lot of schools, but instead of them reopening those schools, they built new schools. And the reason they built new schools is because they could get contracts from these construction companies, and maybe, I don't know if this is true or not, but maybe some of them, sometimes they could get kickbacks. They started building new schools. In 2013, what they did is when they closed the school, they ran mainly foundational Black American teachers out of the schools. You see, and then over the next from 2013 to 2023. They spent time trying to get rid of Black teachers and get rid of really professional teachers in Chicago, Black and white. Because what they did is that when I began teaching in 1973, the suburban school teachers, they were the highest paid teachers in the state of Illinois. But by the time I retired from the Chicago public schools in 2016, it was the Chicago public school teachers who were the most highly paid teachers. And so what they did is that they spent 2013 to 2023 trying to run out all of these experienced teachers because they were making nice money, you see? And because they were making nice money, they felt that they could bring in these new teachers and that these new teachers would suffice. In addition, what they did is that the Chicago Board of Education, under the Rahm Emanuel and Lightfoot administrations, what they did, they started bringing in a whole lot of administrators from the East Coast. These administrators, they didn't know nothing about Chicago. They didn't give a damn about teaching Black children. And because they didn't give a damn about teaching Black children began, in a sense, to fall further and further behind. And the reason they fell further and further behind is you had to understand. If every Black child was taught properly in the city of Chicago, if every Black child was given the quality education that they deserve, what would happen is that it wouldn't be enough jobs in Chicago for suburban whites. See, so it's to their benefit to keep the Chicago public schools, ineffective and inefficient, so that they can make sure that Black children don't compete with white children. Okay, let's look at this. We already know that because of the pandemic, the C pandemic, we know that around 37,000, they said 37,000 students have not returned to Chicago public schools after the pandemic. One of the reasons that a lot of them haven't returned to Chicago public schools is you have to understand is that in Cook County, only 3 out of 10, yes, only 3 out of 10 people in Cook County, Illinois, believe in a sense that the public schools are really offering our children a quality education. And because only 3 out of 10 people believe that the Chicago public schools are offering us our children a quality education, many people have been trying to find other ways to try to get their kids a good education. You see, one of the things is this: is that during the pandemic, let's look at it from this perspective. For 2 years, parents had to teach their own children. Sure, they had online teaching, but even though they had online teaching, the parents had to, in a sense, make sure that they helped their children learn. This is very difficult because, see, you just can't imagine. It's very hard for children to learn. Period. During the pandemic, I was teaching in a suburban school district, and I found, in a sense, that many other students were having difficulty. Uh, Often the kids wouldn't show up. They wouldn't want to be on screen. A lot of times, parents would have to go to work, and their kids wouldn't really, come to school. They wouldn't really get on screen. We used in a sense Google Classroom, and many other kids wouldn't show up. And because many other kids wouldn't show up, we saw a decline in the education of these kids, especially among kids who were in special education. And so, because of the fact that so many parents had to either quit their jobs to be at home to make sure that their kids could get a quality education, or they had to assist the teachers who were trying to instruct the students online, that meant, in a sense, that a lot of parents, they got used to working with their kids. A lot of parents, they got used to, in a sense, using the computer, and they got used to, in a sense, trying to be there to make sure that their kids did the assignments that their teachers were teaching them. Because of the fact that many parents had learned how to work with their children, they had learned about the many resources that they have online. Many parents, I believe, many parents, in a sense, have decided that they're going to homeschool their children. Before up to 2019, about around 3% of the public school children in the United States were attending homeschools. But we see that after the pandemic in the United States, 6.73% of the children across the United States in kindergarten through 12th grade are now being taught at home. What does this mean? This means, in a sense, that many parents have decided to take a chance on homeschooling. And homeschooling is very scary. And the reason homeschooling is very scary is because of the fact that when you homeschool your children, everything falls on you. That puts a lot of pressure on you as a parent, you see. But we find, in a sense, that the coronavirus pandemic, what it did is that it ushered in a new way of parents seeing that they could play a role in their child's education. This is very important. Is that the pandemic caused many parents to see, I can teach my children. I can help my children to learn. And this is a very important occurrence because of the fact that it started parents saying, I'm going to try to make sure that my kids can learn. But there's a lot of reasons for homeschooling. The number one reason for homeschooling is that many parents are just dissatisfied with their neighborhood schools. They feel in Chicago and even out in the suburbs, they feel that their kids who are attending these neighborhood schools just aren't getting the proper education. And as I said earlier, they did a survey and they found that only 3 out of 10 parents in Cook County feel that the schools are positive. So you can see that 7 out of 10 people feel that the neighborhood schools aren't really doing what they can. A lot of people, in a sense, are concerned about the fact that sending their kids to the public schools also can cause a lot of problems because they fear their safety. At a lot of public schools, there's a lot of fights. I don't know about you when you went to school. Sometimes there's bullies, there's people fighting. Sometimes a kid can't really get an education because of the fact that in the classroom, the teacher can try to do whatever he can. The teacher, he or she can try to be as positive and try to, in a sense, provide a safe environment for the kid. But the problem is that once that kid gets out of school, sometimes they can still be bullied. Another thing is that there's been a spread among parents that they want their kids to get that special support, and they feel that a way that they can get that special support is through homeschooling. You see, and when you homeschool your kid, it's a lot of pressure on you, and also in the sense is that what parents found, and this is very important. You see, I know when I was teaching at this elementary school during the pandemic, we had to show parents a lot of sites on the computer where they could go and they could find extra resources for their kids to learn. I think a lot of parents said, "Damn, if I can go to these sites and just pay a little bit of money, and I can get help in instructing my kids, then that's what I'm going to do." And I think that this gave parents the confidence, because see, remember, it takes a lot of confidence to want to be able to teach your children through homeschooling, And so then when they saw, in a sense, that these teachers were using additional resources that were online, that were free, then the parents said, "Damn, since they're free, I could do that. I could help my children to learn, and I can use the same materials that these teachers are using." Another thing is that, there's so much online content that that made a lot of parents feel that they can homeschool their kids. And as I said earlier, a lot of parents have confidence now. There's a lot of programs where you can get help in teaching your kids English grammar, writing, and things like that. And many parents feel confident to do that. And see, what happens is that there's an organization online called the Khan Academy. And the Khan Academy, what the Khan Academy does is that it's a free program, or it's low cost. And what it does, it can provide opportunities for your children to study math. So most of us are afraid of math.
Yeah, I've heard of that. I've heard of people using that to help them get their math good.
Yeah, and it got popular during the pandemic because a lot of parents didn't know that you could use that. And then homeschooling parents are increasingly teaming up too. Some homeschooling parents, they live in the same neighborhood. They found other parents who are teaching their kids. Let's say that you got two parents. One parent feels comfortable teaching the kids maybe social studies. Another parent may feel comfortable teaching the kids English literature and grammar. And so then when these two parents, they might team up, or three parents can team up, and they can have a regular educational program. They may use the basement in their house, or a room in their house, or maybe even in a sense a garage. And they can make that into a school. So we see many parents who are teaming up, who are co-teaching their kids. So that's encouraging homeschooling. Another thing that's happening is that homeschooling families are pooling their expertise, their resources, and then also there's a lot of hybrid models. What I mean by hybrid models is that in the Chicago public schools, for instance, if a parent sends a letter to their local school by May 1st, and they ask for participation of their kid in any type of curricular activity, maybe a math class, a reading class. This could be especially true for parents who have kids who are at the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade level. Parents at the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade level or high school, usually in a sense, the courses are departmentalized. That means that there's a math class for the 6th graders, a social studies class for the 6th graders, 7th graders, 8th graders, high school, or an English class. And so what many parents are doing is that they're developing a hybrid program where the kids are being taught around the house, but they're also working with their local schools to be able to have kids get extra coursework. Also, in the state of Illinois, if you homeschool your kids, the school in your district that provides driver education, they have to provide driver's education for your children too. As a result of your homeschooling your kid, when your kid gets about 15 going on 16, they can take driver's education in the local schools. So what's happening is that because parents are becoming more confident in their abilities to work with their kids, because of the fact that parents are beginning, in a sense, to see how important it is to do homeschooling, you know, they're moving away from sending their kids to the local school, and they feel confident. But see, it's very important to remember is that there are some problems with homeschooling. As I told you before, it's a lot of pressure on you as a parent. Sometimes, in a sense, the kids, like if you only have a single child, the child might feel loneliness, you know. But that's kind of overrated. I taught school for 46 years. I taught all the way from elementary through high school, and I found out is that sometimes, especially among little girls, sometimes you can become just as lonely in that school as if you could be there among 30 people, and nobody might want to talk to you in class because the other kids may want to say, "Hey, don't talk to him or her." I was so surprised when I taught a second grade class, and I had some girls in there, and the girls, in a sense, they all stuck together, and they wouldn't work with one of the other girls. So sometimes a kid can be just as lonely in regular school as in homeschool. Another thing that happens is that when you homeschool your kids, the school withdrawal is going to cause a budget deficit, and we see that already with Chicago public schools. With 37,000 students not returning to school, they've lost a lot of money. And in fact, this has led to a possible shortfall of $1.2 billion in Chicago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, $1.2 billion. But see, a lot of that budget is bullshit. A lot of that budget is paying administrators too much money. A lot of that budget is bringing in programs and bringing in people, in a sense, that don't really make the program better for the kids. Some of the money goes to administrators. They make too much money. A lot of administrators, they're making too much money downtown. You see a lot of people in the downtown office. A lot of them down there, they don't give a damn about no white kids. Black kids. They don't care if black kids don't shit. You know why? Because see, every black child that learns in Chicago, that's going to keep a job away from a white person from the suburbs. Remember, the suburbs are a resource for white people Chicago is a resource for white people. Chicago is a place where white people send their kids to get jobs. If you got qualified black kids to get jobs, those black kids are going to demand a job, right? But see, here's what they do. You send black kids to a rotten school. You send black kids to an educational program where they know, in a sense, they're not being educated. You let the black kids play around in class. You let the black kids not do any work. You let the black kids, in a sense, shuck and jive. You let the black kids, in a sense, cause so much trouble in the class that the teacher can't teach them. Now think about this. This is a PSYOPs program, because what that does is that makes the child, when they get to be a teenager, or they're ready to graduate from high school, or they drop out, they'll feel that they caused their own problem in being educated, which in a way is kind of true. But you allow the kids to do this so that you can keep those black children out of the competitive market. See, you want the kids to play around. You want the kids, in a sense, not to be held responsible. Do you know when they took corporal punishment used to be in the school where you could maybe paddle a child or something like that. No teachers ever used corporal punishment, because if you use corporal punishment, you could be sued, right, for assault. You could be sued for assault and stuff. But once the state of Illinois took the ability of teachers to not be able to use corporal punishment, that's when the schools went wild. Even though corporal punishment wasn't being used by the teachers, the principals or et cetera. When I was in school, if I did something wrong, principal would call me up and get a ruler and hit you on your hand. But the point is this is that you can't even do that. But see, they want to have a lot of disorder in the school so that black kids can know that they played a role in not getting an education. And then that way, in a sense, when it's time to get a job in Chicago, they can say, oh, I'm not qualified for a job. And the job that they may want to do is maybe, go out and hustle or become a crook, you see. Okay. Another thing is that another problem with homeschooling is parental exhaustion. When you're working with your kids every day and you're trying to teach them, then you have to cook, clean, wash, all that type of stuff. It can cause a lot of parents that be very, very tired. So parental exhaustion could be a problem. Also, sometimes when you're teaching your kids at home, you can have a lack of motivation. And this lack of motivation may come from the kids not being really motivated to do the work. But see, a parent can kind of help to stop that. Because if you're homeschooling your kids, then what you have to do is that every day at the same time, every day, you have to begin instruction in your home school. You have to begin kids being instructed at the same time every day, and you have to have them working at their desk, table, or whatever, and you have to have them in a sense, you have to watch them and make sure they do their work, then you have to talk to them. What I found, in a sense, a very effective way for our kids to learn how to read is that even if you're not homeschooling your children, what I used to tell parents is this. I used to tell parents to buy a newspaper every day. And in that newspaper, on their way to work or on their way home, they would read, in a sense, an article in the Chicago Sun-Times or the Tribune, whatever newspaper they got. And then they would read that article. And then when they got home, they would have their child read the same article. And see, once that child read the same article, what you would do is that you would tell the child to say, what did you read? Explain to me what you read. And see, by the parent having the child read the same article that they had read, and they knew exactly what was in the article, that was a way that they could build up among their children reading comprehension. And that's part of the program is reading comprehension. So one way to in a sense prevent a lack of motivation is to have the kids start school at the same time every day. Number one. Number two, encourage your children in a sense that what they're doing is going to be important in their career. Number three, sometime at least once or twice a week, take your kids to the local library. We're lucky in Chicago. We have a lot of libraries. Take your kids to the local library, have your kids take out some books, and have them read those books. Reading is fundamental.
Can I touch on that briefly? Because what you said actually connected with me on a very interesting level personally, because that's something that happened to me as a kid. Reading to me as a young kid was very boring. It was dreadful to me. I didn't like doing it. And I knew how to read. I knew how to do it, but I didn't like doing it. So my reading stayed at a very still level and it wasn't increasing. And eventually that led to me kind of falling behind. And my mother noticed that. She was like, why don't you like to read? I told her, I don't, these books are not interesting to me. I don't like reading these books. So she took me to the library and she said, any book you want to get, look through the library, any book you want to get, let me know and we'll get it. So I'm looking through the library and I see books about Spider-Man and the X-Men, and I'm seeing books that I'm personally interested in, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'm gonna read it now. So I got those books, and I started I'm reading all the time now because now there are books that I'm interested in. So what you said actually like really connected with me personally, and I think that's very interesting because that really can help a lot of these young students who are falling behind. It's not that they're slow, it's just that a lot of them are disconnected, and the parents have to find a way to get their children connected back into reading or whatever.
Yeah, and see, parents. what parents have to do is they have to understand that. See, a lot of people don't understand. Marriage is very important in a relationship, and marriage is very important in a relationship because, usually in the sense the woman she can be the confidant of the children. She can listen to them, and she can provide a lot of, in a sense, support. Whereas the male or the husband, the father, if he's around, he can be the disciplinarian. And see, because you separate those two roles, it provides an important role. Sure, I don't like the fact today that my sons, I have 5 boys and 1 girl. And so my sons would say, damn, you used to whip us all the time. But I said, I wasn't home. I didn't know how to whoop your ass. I whip your ass because your mama told me. Oh, yeah. You was the mean person. See, no matter what, you look bad. But again, you differentiate because, see, the problem is today is that usually if you discipline kids, it leads to a lot of resentment from the child. And when you're a single mom, sometimes your kids can build up resentment towards you when you're trying to do the best you can, And so, that's why sometimes it's good if there's a father in the picture. So again, that mom can play an important role because, see, a mom doesn't understand. Most mothers don't understand is that a mother can get more out of her child by being sad and being disappointed in her child than whooping their child.
Oh, wow. That's true.
Because, see, most kids want to please their mother. And because most kids want to please their mother, what happens in a sense is that they try to do everything not to disappoint their mom. That's why sometimes a smart mom, what they'll do is she'll really act disappointed in her child, and that can get a great response. See, a mom cannot whip a kid. I can whip my child. I can whip a kid, and they'll feel, hey, that's I gotta get the guy. I don't want dad to whip my ass. Even though they don't really be afraid of you most of the time, And I remember my son, my oldest son. He's what, about 54, 55 now. I remember one day I said, I got to whip your butt. So one day he wanted to put books and all that type of stuff in his pants. I can see the book, and so then I would kind of, in a sense, maybe spank him on his leg. But see, I had a paddle, and I used to call it the paddle of justice. So my sons, if they did something wrong, they would get three paddles on their ass. Not like around, not like that, but just to let them know that you had to encourage them. Because, see, the thing is that when you're raising boys, you're raising girls, it's very important that you understand is that when you're raising boys, you're trying to get them to be men. And so when you're raising boys, and even when I taught in school, with my young men, I always taught them, in a sense, I'd say, if you did something wrong in school, I'd say, okay, Johnny, why did you do that? Blah, 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 blah. I said, okay, well, this is it, Johnny, you see, is that the only thing that you have in life as a man, remember this, Johnny, the only thing you have in life as a man is your word. The only thing that a man lives off is he gives you his word, and he shakes your hand. And when he shakes your hand and gives you his word, then you're supposed to trust that guy. I say, Johnny, you did X, Y, Z. Can I ask you not to do that again? Oh, yeah, Mr. Winters, Dr. Winters, when I got my PhD. But I said, okay. Can you give me your word to do that? What do you mean? I swear on my mama. I said, I don't want to hear that swear on my mama stuff. But we always say we swear on my mama, my dad, mama, great. No, we don't want the great granddaddy, all that type of swearing stuff, Johnny. I said, Johnny, do you give me your word that you won't do this again? Do you give me your word that I can trust you? Because, see, remember, I'm not talking to you as a damn kid. You're going to be a man. You're going to be a man, and a man has to stand on his word. Can I trust your word, Johnny? He'll say, yes, let's shake hands, Captain. See, I didn't say Captain, but But I say, let's shake hands, Johnny. Because see, the thing is that when you're raising boys, you have to get them to understand that they have to be men of their word. Like my sons, I used to tell them when they were growing up, I said, I'll always love you. I'll always love you. Don't worry about that. But I said, I don't want to just love you. I want to respect you. And to respect you as a man, that means that you have to do manly things. And I said, a manly thing to do is to always take care of your family. A manly thing to do is that when times get hard, you don't run away from your wife or your girlfriend. If you got children, you stay there and you toe the line. You make sure in a sense that you're there for them because see, I want to respect you. I love you, but love ain't shit. Love ain't shit. Love ain't shit. I said when I met your mama when she was 15. And she's going on 16, but she was 15 going on 16. I was 17. So she had her birthday. And so after I got to know her, I said, how many boyfriends did you have? One, you know how girls are. We
know how it may be.
I said, how many of those guys did you love? I loved about 4 or 5 of them. I said, see? You said you loved 4 or 5 of them, but they're gone now. So that shows you that love ain't worth shit. I said, if you respect me and I respect you, then I'll treat you right because I respect you and you respect me. See, respect is better than love.
I agree.
See, I can tell you I love you and that's all great, but wouldn't you rather that I respect you? Now, some people might say that's game. No, it's not game. It's common sense.
I agree.
Little game too. But the point is this: is that you have to, in a sense, understand that you're raising children. You have to kind of think of ways that you can make sure that your kid is always being educated. And by using that newspaper trick, by bringing a newspaper home, you read an article or two, you have your child read the article, and then you have the child tell you what the article was about and repeat it back to you. Then therefore, in a sense, that can help them to read. Another problem with homeschooling is parentified daughters. What do I mean by parentified daughters? We have people have a tendency, especially moms. Moms have a tendency that when they have a daughter, that they want to put a lot of pressure on that daughter to take care of their siblings, their younger siblings. And because of the fact, in a sense, that they put a lot of pressure on the daughters, in a sense, to be like a parent, then therefore, in a sense, this can cause a lot of problems because, see, most of the time, I know when I was growing up, I felt like I was Cinderella because I was after my sister left, she moved out, and then my brother was in the army. I was the third child, so I had to take over a lot of responsibilities. I had to wash the clothes, go grocery shopping. We used to have a grocery store called A&P. So I used to go to A&P and come back carrying 2 shopping bags full of cans. That's what made me real strong. Back when I was in college. This was my first in college because I had so many muscles. Once I got fat, my voice got like this. Damn! Damn! So again, one of the problems is parentification of daughters. You have to avoid trying to make your daughter become a parent and have them do a lot of things just because they're around the house. One of my students, I do a research class. One of my students, Sandra Linden, what she did, she works with a lot of kids. And she found a lot of kids have a lot of resentment. And I have resentment. I don't know how, when you were growing up, I don't know if your mom tried to make you do a lot of work. I don't know how many people in your family. But a lot of times when your mom makes you try to do a lot of work, it makes you feel a little resentful towards mom. Because the fact is that you say, damn, why do I have to do this? Let somebody else do this. Why can't sis do it? We're lazy, but that's just it. So, so a problem with homeschooling is sometimes parentification of the daughter. And then finally, sometimes another problem is of homeschooling is at-home method problems. In other words, in a sense, because of the fact that that parents aren't really programmed to know how to teach, then sometimes they can have problems and trying in a sense to present the information to their kids. But luckily, because of the fact that a lot of parents put pressure on a lot of teachers put pressure on parents during the pandemic to help their kids obtain instruction. That's why a lot of parents have much more confidence in what they're doing. And so that's one of the reasons that I believe that 37,000 children have left the public schools. But see, you have to understand that you see, let me explain to you. Black people are the first men and women on the planet Earth, right? That means in the sense that we go back to our great granddaddy. At least we go back to 100,000 to 200,000 years ago when the first human being was created in Africa. So think about this, Afro Elite. If we go back 200,000 years ago, that means in a sense that you got the memories of all these Black people and the great inventions that they made. You got the memories of all these Black people who built cities, who are architects, engineers, etc. Therefore, since you have these memories, then that means in a sense that you have the potential to be great. So school for Black children should be a place where a Black kid is introduced to various different subjects and opportunities so that they can find out what memories that they can latch on to. Yes. See,
deep.
Oh, yes, it's deep because, see, we have a genetic memory. Just like you get your eyes from your mom, you get your nose from your dad, you see? And then sometimes people say, you look like your granddaddy. And then some people say, you look like Uncle John. Uncle Johnny. Back in the day. Mm-hmm. Oh, my great Uncle John. They'll tell you this because, see, you're carrying these memories. And so then, therefore, remember, after slavery, many Black people, FBA, Foundational Black Americans, they taught themselves how to read.
That's true.
Think about that. How the hell can you teach yourself how to read if you don't know how to read?
I wouldn't even know really where to start. How do you learn how to read, like, without any teacher? Like, that's an incredible feat. It
is an incredible feat, but they were able to do that because of that genetic memory. See, See, the only way I can hold you back, Afro Elite, is if I tell you that you ain't shit. If I tell you that you can't do this, if I tell you can't do that, then you won't do this. You won't do that. Most people don't even understand. Do you know that most of the robots are built by kids, are built by people that didn't go to college? Did you know that?
I didn't.
Did you know that most of your millionaires didn't finish college? Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that either.
Yeah, look at the founders of Google and all that. They didn't finish college because college is just a place for regurgitation. See, you have to decide on what you want to do when you get ready to do it. But see, if I tell you that everybody got to go to college, then therefore I can have you doing unnecessary things and keep you from being as prosperous and successful as you can be. You see, remember, our greatest historians, Jay Rogers, he didn't go to college. George Jackson, he didn't go to college. Yeah, I went to college. I got a PhD. But I was lucky. I wasn't supposed to come out of college and be an Afrocentric scholar. I wasn't supposed to graduate from college and love my people and want to teach all children, see every Black child as my child. I wasn't supposed to go to college and come out and feel that it's very important that I especially pay attention to the Black boys and help them to be men. I wasn't supposed to do that. And see, that's why America is going down today. America's going down today because they're waiting for college people to save them. They're waiting for those people with a college education to save them. and America ain't doing shit.
Excellent. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
an excellent point.
because every great invention made in the United States, we made it. You see, they told me for years growing up that I didn't have a culture. They told me for years growing up that I didn't have a culture, I didn't have a language, I didn't know my language. And so they said, you don't have a culture. But you know what I found is that American culture is our culture. The food,
Yes.
the dance. You know, who's the greatest speakers of English in the United States, of the English language?
Black people.
Yeah. Have you ever,
Black
no,
Americans.
the leading speakers of English in the United States are what? Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, James L. Jones, Jesse Jackson. See, you don't, when you think about the English language, you don't think about a white person, but they've convinced you that you're nothing. And see, this is what makes these people so bad. And see, that's why we want our kids to learn. We have to get an administration to take over the schools that, number one, has been a teacher in the Chicago public schools.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, somebody who's concerned about our children. You know, see, for a long time, when I graduated from college in 1973, I had a master's degree, and I was state certified. But when I came back to Chicago, I couldn't even get a job teaching, because Chicago, you had to know somebody, or you had to pay off some alderman to get even to be a teacher.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and then a lot of the teachers, they belong to certain fraternities and sororities. Just like most of your administrators in Chicago are either belong to the Delta sorority or the Alpha Kappa Alpha, aka sorority.
Mm. I did know there was a lot of sorority ties in the Chicago teachers
Yeah,
within
even
the
out in
Chicago
the suburbs.
teachers.
Even out in the suburbs. You went to school in the suburbs, I know. And so then even out there, a lot of your teachers are AKAs or Deltas. And then a lot of the men teachers might be Omegas. See? And so then, because of the fact that they were hiring people in a sense, mainly based upon their fraternity or sorority, a lot of times those people didn't care. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
I had a lot of people who worked with me, and they grew up in the projects. But do you think they cared about helping other black kids, grow up and go to college and be successful? Hell no. They only thought about themselves, you see? And see, when Rahm Emanuel came and Lightfoot came to Chicago, because of the fact that they had no roots in Chicago, because of the fact that they didn't know what Chicago was all about, of course they ruined everything. You see? I'm hoping that Johnson, I'm hoping that he may, in a sense, really be a good mayor, but we'll see. You see? Because we know all skin folk ain't kinfolk. Sorry.
That's true.
All kinfolk ain't, all us kinfolk ain't kinfolk. And so then, see, because we need people in a sense to understand that our kids can learn. As I just told you, our kids come to school unless they have some sort of disability. Our kids come to school with a 200 to 100,000 year genetic memory. That means that anytime they tell you that a black kid can't learn, that means that a black kid has not been taught properly. You see? Because you got all this knowledge already in you. And so then you can always bring that knowledge out. And because you can bring that knowledge out, then you can make it much more effervescent. See, we are the shit.
I agree. Couldn't disagree. Can't disagree.
The only problem is that our schools have administrators that don't care about the kids. Just like, for example, they talked about the fact that they're spending $12,000 per student in each school. Well, see, $12,000 plus I think they said an additional $900 or something like that dollars.
Yeah.
We're talking about $13,000+. But that $13,000+ has to pay for every teacher in the school. It has to pay for educational materials. It has to, in a sense, pay for various programs. And so the majority of that money is going to be used to pay what? Salaries.
Yes.
There's a majority of that 13,000 per student is going to be used to pay salaries. That means, in a sense, that you may have enough teachers and you might not have enough teachers. Like Johnson was saying, when I was teaching, you had a counselor, and the counselor worked at about 7-8 schools. The school psychologist worked at about 7-8 schools. Therefore, the kids couldn't get regular counseling. They couldn't get the help they needed. A lot of times, a lot of kids, in a sense, they have emotional problems. They come from homes that are problematic, and they need to have counselors who they can talk to. Sometimes a counselor not there. A psychologist, a school psychologist definitely isn't there, and the school psychologists, all they mainly do is test. You see,
that's true. And
I had a master's degree in special education. I could have tested the kids. Why not have somebody for the kids to talk to? I'm a coward. Oh yes, I'm a coward. I tell you, when I taught high school the first part of my career because of the fact that I'd been taught to teach high school 6th through 12th grade. But I got tired of teaching high school because because I was an open teacher, many other girls, in a sense, they would want to confine me their problems. Maybe their mom's boyfriend is raping them. Maybe they're having situational problems at home. Maybe the father is abusive. I couldn't take that stuff. I'm not going to tell a lie. I couldn't take it. As a result, I'd rather teach elementary school because in elementary school, the kids don't tell you all their problems. But just to think about those kids in high school, sometimes you need an adult to talk to. But yeah. I felt overwhelmed as a high school teacher because many of these girls were suffering from situational problems. And they were in situations that I couldn't help them get out of. But maybe if they would have had a counselor there or a psychologist there. That's why I'm hoping, in a sense, that Johnson will reevaluate and make the Board of Education reevaluate how the schools are funded,
Yeah,
like my kids, every year in the Illinois schools, kids can only be promoted. Kids can only be promoted based upon the fact that they passed a statewide test in the 6th grade and the statewide test in the 8th grade. If you didn't pass those statewide tests, you were held back. When I taught 5th and 8th grade, not one of my students was ever held back. And you're saying, how could you do that? It was simple. The reason my kids always pass is that in September, when school started, I told my students, every one of you are going to pass the district test and the city test. What are you talking about? I said, every one of you is going to pass. So
that's good.
I began, in a sense, I told them what they were going to do. And see, kids go off of a self-fulfilling prophecy. Whatever you tell them, they believe. And so, see, if you tell them they're going to pass, they're going to pass. What are you talking about? I'm talking about the fact is that this is what you can do with Black children. And until I taught in the suburbs during the pandemic, all my students were Black, were Foundation of Black Americans. We had I taught at Bennett Elementary School on 101st and Prairie. I taught at Bennett for 22 years. All praise unto God, 22 years. And we used to turn out some of the greatest students, until my principal died. Then after my principal died, they brought in some other principals, and they hated my principal because our school had the best scores in the district. Our school, some of the kids would graduate, and they would go to some of prep schools on full scholarships.
That's good.
See, because of the fact that we instilled in them. See, we had two opposing theories. The women teachers back then, they felt, oh, you be nice. And see, me and one of the other teachers called Zawacki, we said we want to give the kids a kick-ass attitude. What are you talking about? We want the kids to feel that they should kick everybody's ass. That doesn't mean you had to go fight somebody that had to get a bat or you had to get a knife, but we want our kids to feel that they could be competitive and they could compete with anybody. And see, this is why we had such a strong program. But again, this was easy. What are you talking about, Dr. Winters? How is that easy? It was easy because you're teaching people who have 200,000 years of memories. All you got to do is allow them to bring those memories forward and allow them to move forward in whatever they want to do. See? But see, that's why in a sense, white people don't want critical race theory to be taught. Critical race theory is mainly taught in law school.
Yes.
Critical race theory is this. Number one, white people hate you. Number one, that's what critical race theory teaches. Number two, white people want to kill you. And number three, white people have set up a race in which you're going to lose. See? But although white people want to kill us, although white people hate us, we're still successful because of the fact that we're the firstborn. We're the first of God. We're the first creation of God. See, people don't even understand, back in the old days when I was a teenager, we said we were black and we were proud. We said we had black pride. We said that we were black. And the government spent 40 years to make black people stop calling themselves black. Do you know why? Because by calling ourselves black, we were having an identity. You know what the Egyptians called themselves? Come at true or come at you, the black people. Do you know what the Sumerians called themselves? Sagiga, the black people. Do you know what the ancient Chinese who founded the first civilizations, you know what they called themselves? Li Men, the black people. Do you know what the Olmecs called themselves? She, the black people.
Wow.
Now look at this. Now, did all the Egyptians look purple or black like a crayon? Egyptians look purple or black like a crayon?
No.
No. Some black people were brown. Some black people were cinnamon. Some black people were cold purple. Some black people were red bone. Many Egyptians were yellow, right? So why? Why would these people call themselves black when they didn't have the color of a black crayon? Call themselves black because what does the Quran tell you? What does the Bible tell you? They tell you that the first man was Adam or Adamu, and that Adamu was red, brown, or black. Get you a Bible, family, get you a Bible dictionary. They're going to say it was black. Therefore, if the first man was black and the first man was made in the image of God, that means that when you call yourself black, you're paying homage to what? You're paying homage to the Creator. They teach you that you can't see God. But right now it's dark outside. When you go outside and you look into that sky, all you see is blackness with a little speck of white here, a little speck of white there. What does that tell you? That tells you if the sky is black, then God must be black. And what color did the Egyptians paint their God? They paint their gods black. So when Egyptians, when Sumerians, when the ancient Chinese, when the Olmecs, when they called themselves black, they were acknowledging what? That they were the sons and daughters of God. So you got to understand, the Hebrews, they teach you that they're the children of God. That's a damn lie. The only way you become a child of God is when you accept the fact that you're black. Because by accepting the fact that you're black, listen, by accepting the fact that you're black, that means that you can access those Akashic records. You can access those ancient Egyptian records. You can access those Sumerian records. But see, if you're ignoring the fact that you're black, then that means that you're rejecting God. See, I know this week Tariq was talking about we talk too much about the Bible. That's a damn lie. Do you think that his people hate you, and you know they hate you? You go to work every day, man. On that damn fucking job, you know those people hate you. If you got a white foreman, and you know if you get a chance, they want to fuck you up. Am I right or wrong?
Yeah.
Right or wrong? Mm-hmm. And yet, why don't he fuck you up? Why don't he kill you? Because he can't. Because God won't let him. Yes, some of us might die, some of us get killed, but because of the fact that we got God with us, they can't do anything. Look at this. We're the only slaves in history. The only slaves in history that today some of us have more money than our former masters.
Wow, that's true.
Masters. We're living in fine homes. Do you think they want you to live in those fine homes? Do you think they want you to make that money? Hell no. But even though they established a race in which they're going to win, and a race in which most of the time they win, we're able to overcome them. Is that because we're smart? Hell no. Don Lemon, he thought he was smart, didn't he? He gets buku white ass, right or wrong. What about Holmes? What about Holmes? He used to work for ABC. He thought he was into it because he had some white thighs that he could go home to. You know, Holmes used to be on ABC and they fired him because he was going with that white woman. And then you know, he was a bussy boy and he had a white man for his husband. That don't matter. They thought they were smart and they lost, but they won, but they lost. See, the minute that you think you can handle the situation all by yourself, you lose. Kevin Samuels, a very wise guy, very, very observant. You see, but see, Kevin Samuels. This is just my opinion. Kevin Samuels, I don't think he prayed enough because Kevin Samuels didn't understand that it was millions and millions and millions of black women who wanted him dead.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, millions. You know that. You saw it on
Yeah, I saw it. I saw how they responded, a lot of them.
So the only way you protect yourself is you had to pray against those negative people out there. I think he wasn't praying, and eventually, in a sense, he died. But how did he die? He died with a damn Spanish woman, and he died like a punk. He died like a punk. Why? Because he didn't pray. I'm gonna tell you this. I grew up in Chicago. I never went to Vietnam, but I had so many bullets whiz past my damn head growing up. See, I saw many bullets whiz past my damn head, and I was a neutron. My son the other day says a gang called Neutron, but back then in the '60s, it wasn't. If you was a neutron, that means you didn't belong to no gang. I still got shot at. I got hemmed up. You know, people said you're gonna join the Blackstone Rangers. You're gonna join the Samples. You know, I'd say, hell, you ain't gonna do shit to me. You got the gun, shoot me. But I'll tell you this: if you miss, I'm gonna fuck you up. Because I was stupid. But I understood that even though that guy had a gun in my face, I understood that if it was God's will, they couldn't kill me. Man, I'm 72 years old. I thought I was gonna die before I got to be 21. Growing up in Chicago. In Chicago, I used to live on 47 and Evans. I knew every damn alley. I knew every alley, and I knew where to jump the fence, baby.
All them carrying the cans made you strong, you know.
Yes, sir. Yes,
but if they missed, it was gonna be over with.
Yes, sir. But the only thing is that God blessed me that we burned down much of Chicago, and they said we got to get that nigga out of there and send him to college. Get these niggas out of here and send them to college. But luckily, when I went to college, they didn't trick me. See, black people ain't never got shit unless we fought for it ourselves. They were losing the Civil War, man. They were losing the Civil War. Then Lincoln said, damn, all these damn Irish and Italians and all these immigrants, they deserting the army. We got to get some people to fight. 200,000 black people fought in the Civil War. 200,000 black people. We kicked that white ass, man. We kicked that white ass. That's what we saved America then, as we always save America. But they didn't give us our freedom. We fought and we took our freedom. See, That's the beauty. That's the beauty. That is the beauty, you see, of being FBA. See, when Tariq said we're foundational black Americans, man, he made a mighty, mighty, mighty choice, because that was the first time. That was the first time that we named ourselves. The white man called us a Negro. The white man said, well, you can be African American. But when Tariq said foundational black American, he not only gave us a unique identity, but we named ourselves. You know what that means, man? That is power. You see, back in the 60s, you know, I saw a lot of people die, so a lot of people go to jail, and some people in jail today because they were black power, you see? And they were our black leaders. And every time the white man saw a black leader, he killed his ass or he put him in jail or he ran him out of the country. But what did Tariq say? I ain't your leader. We don't need no leader. Every black person a leader. See, that's knowledge, man. That's knowledge. That's using history. Harold Cruz, what did Harold Cruz say? You had to learn from history. Why the hell you want to be a leader when they're going to kill your ass? But if everybody a leader, then they can't kill everybody. Do you see? Do you see?
Yes.
And so the education system, the schools are not meant for our kids to learn, because a lot of the administrators, instead of these principals and assistant principals, instead of them trying to learn from people like Carter G. Woodson, instead of them trying to teach our children based upon theories that black people develop, they run and get some white person and get that theory. Those white theories, they're not the same way. They can't teach your kid. A white child, he learns how to walk in a walker. A black child, he learns standing next to his mama holding onto her damn leg. We are different. We learn different. See? But if you got a bunch of administrators running your schools, teaching black children, see? I'm talking about foundational black Americans. I'm not talking that black and brown shit, because the only people that's black and brown is who? Foundational black Americans.
Yeah, really. Real talk. We're the Browns.
That's
we're
right.
The black and browns, if we're going to be honest about it.
Yeah, look at this. The 1860 census. Do you know how many Spanish people was in America in 1860? That means all the way from Maine to California. Do you know how many Spanish people lived in America in 1860 on the census?
Not too many. It couldn't have been too many, right?
4,000.
Wow.
4,000. That means that all these millions and millions of Latinos over here today, they're immigrants. They're immigrants. See? But they have to make you feel like you're a minority. They tell you you're a minority. You're a minority, and yet every time an election come up, who do they want to get mainly out to go vote? Is it Spanish? Is it Asian? No. It's FBA. They feel they can't have a good election unless we vote white, because that much tell you that we're the majority. Look, South Africa. See, black people, we don't really think enough. South Africa. South Africa, they wanted to find a way to control the majority black population, and they wanted to find out how a minority white population could control a majority black population, right? You know that the South Africans, the son of apartheid, they came to America to see how white people over here controlled black people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right or wrong, right? Okay. Now, why would South Africa come here to have white people teach them how to control a majority black population if black people in America are a minority? You never thought about that, did
Good
you?
point.
You never thought about that, did you? That's because you're the damn majority. You know, the black population on the south side of Chicago, I didn't say in the suburbs. You live in the suburbs, you know that most of the suburbs, the south suburbs is black. But I'm just talking about if you took the black population on the south side of Chicago, I'm not talking about the west side. If you just took the black population on the south side of Chicago, they could fill up South Dakota, North Dakota, Montana, and Wyoming.
Mm.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a lot of black people on that side. Yeah.
Yeah, but see, they have to make you feel you're a minority. Because see, when they teach you a minority, what is the word minority made of? It's made up of what? A minor. Right? And that means that when you're a minor, that means an adult has to control you. So when you think minority, then you think of yourself as being a dependent of somebody. This education system is not to make our children learn. Our children can learn when teachers devote themselves to teaching our children the way they learn. You got to touch some of our children. Our children need to know that you're sincere. They can tell a faker. You went to school. You could tell a fake ass teacher, couldn't you?
Yeah. And that not only could I tell, it would make me as a student, especially when I was younger, it would make me just disconnected with the class in general. It would make me not want to show up. That happened to me one time. And my dad had to really get on me because I was just ditching English class because my teacher, me and couldn't stand him. It would be some race. It was some racism going on, but that's a deeper story. But I was just not going to class. Yeah. And he was like, hey, you can't just not go to class. I'm like, okay, fine. But when the teacher and the student don't have that connection, when there's not that respect between the teacher and the student, when the student feels the teacher don't care, the student's not motivated.
Yeah. And see, white kids don't think like that. Because see, a white kid, he's he's a mechanical. And because he's mechanical, white kid, they don't really need a teacher to pay any attention to them. That's why if you remember when you were in school, I don't know if you went to school with white kids. If you went to school with white kids, you might remember they never wanted to be in groups. And if they was in a group, they wanted to do a side project. Whereas black kids like to work in groups. And what I'm saying is that there's a certain way you teach our children to be successful. And the way you teach our children to be successful is that we've had many great educators. Carter G. Woodson, he was a great teacher. I wrote a couple of books on how to teach. Brain-based learning and special education. I wrote a book on how to use how to teach social studies. See, we got the information out there, but instead of black administrators going to get black people, I'm not talking about these black people who train and who think white. I'm talking about black people, black teachers who really are concerned about the children. Our kids can learn. Our kids can learn. I just told you that our kids, inside of every one of our children, unless they have a mental deficiency, unless they're a drug baby, unless they're autistic, you see, unless they're a crack baby, these kids can learn. Because in every black child, they're carrying 200,000 years of knowledge. All you have to do is bring it out. That's why the white man established the race. See, racism. What's part of racism? Part of racism is a race. And in a race, you have what? Winners and losers. Well, the white man created a race where he's going to always win. But he doesn't always win because sometimes God will step in. See? So then when you run away from God, and you say, oh, I'm a man, I don't need God, fuck that Jesus shit. Then all you do is you leave yourself lost. You leave yourself afraid. You see? That's why I try to teach my sons to be men. I respect my sons, you know? I respect them only because of the fact that they're married, and the one that ain't married, at least he still try to take care of his family, you see? Because the greatest weapon, the real dynamic duel is not Batman and Robin. The real dynamic duel is not Superman and Spider-Man. The real dynamic duel is that black man and his woman, because see, when you got your woman with you, you can do all type of shit. Because see, some people, they pretend, they say, oh, she's the mother goddess. Yes, she is the mother goddess. That's because she's the key. If you make her happy, she'll help you to get anything you want in the universe. You see, anything you want in the universe, she'll make you have it. You see, that's why I remember when you was younger, I don't know, maybe you was different from me. Then when you was younger, you never quit a girl. You just wouldn't call her no more. You never said, oh, I quit you, Mary, unless you was in 6th grade. But once you got grown, you say, nah, I just won't call all the time. I just kind of get out of the picture.
You just kind of ease up, you know.
Yeah. But do you know why you did that? Because instinctively you understood that if you told her you quit it, and she's gonna be focusing on you to fuck you up, to fuck your life up. Why do you think that most men who have babies out of wedlock, they don't never become shit? Look at all these basketball players. They get a girl pregnant in high school, they have a child in high school, then they go marry a white girl. And when they get out of college, then when they get out of football and can't play no more, that white girl run with all the damn money. Wow. Because he got somebody hating him. You don't ever want a sister to hate you. Because if she hates you, all she's going to think about is fucking you up. That's why smart brother, I'm sorry, family, sisters, don't get mad at me, but that's why we do it. We don't want you to hate us. We don't want you to be thinking about fucking us up. So we don't say,
we don't want the smoke. We kind of don't want the smoke. We want you to lose the feeling. That's why we back up. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But anyway, are there any questions? You know.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, because we're having so many issues when it comes to public school, and you gave such a great breakdown about homeschooling, how the issues, the benefits, the pros and cons. So I want to thank you for that. But I wanted to ask you about charter school, because that's an option that comes up in many of these conversations. So for the audience, can you explain what a charter school is, and do you think that that's going to be something that's beneficial to FBA children?
Okay, a charter school is usually a school that's founded and that's supported by a corporation or supported by a rich individual. In other words, the average charter school, it takes public money and it gives it to somebody rich. The charter school does not make your kid more brilliant than a public school. The only thing that charter school does is it gives rich people and corporations money. Why do you think that so many rich people are in favor of charter schools? They're in favor of charter schools because it's a way that they can get government cash. Okay, the average principal in the Chicago public schools, they might make maybe $70,000 to $90,000 a year. And so then, but if you have a charter school, you can maybe pay that principal $50,000 a year. That means that $40,000 that you were going to pay for that principal in the public school is going to go into what? That rich guy or gal's pocket.
Oh.
Charter schools are about making money. Look, that's why, if you notice, a lot of kids, they got a lot of charter schools in Chicago. I know the big time charter schools, they always brag about sending kids to college. But how many of those kids graduate? See,
that's something they never talk about, the dropout rate in college.
that's right. Because see, the whole point is this: is that so what? If I give you a scholarship of $20,000. That scholarship that's going to cover your books and tuition. But then where are they going to eat you up at as a student? On campus living. On campus living. You're gonna have to borrow. So you got a $20,000 scholarship, but then you're gonna have to borrow $25,000. I repeat, you're gonna have to borrow $25,000 to pay for the dormitory. So if you borrow $25,000 your freshman year, $35,000 your sophomore year, $45,000 your junior year, and then $55,000 your senior year, you're gonna come out owing $100,000. That's why all these black kids go to school and they come out and they don't get shit because they got to pay that money back. A lot of times when you teach in a low income area, they're supposed to take money off your loan. They don't always take it off your loan. And so here you are. You're not even a doctor, a medical doctor. You just a teacher. You just maybe a teacher, or you took a business class. And everybody takes psychology. Whenever black kids go to college and they start failing, they always get a degree in psychology. So everybody got a degree in psychology. Everybody can be in social service. How much money you think you're gonna make? So that $100,000 or more that you borrowed to stay in that dormitory, that's gonna get higher and higher each year, and then you'll never be able to pay it back.
That's true.
You see, so you had to deal with it. So what is a scholarship of $20,000, $30,000? They're gonna still hit you with that dorm fee, and that's where you're gonna have to borrow the money. White men always gonna put an axe over your ass. The average white person, when he go to college, his parents gonna maybe help him pay his way through, or may have money saved up for it. So that means that when he comes out, his parents gonna know somebody maybe who can get him a job, or he's not gonna owe that much money. How many of us know people that can give our kids a job? Not many of us.
True.
See, just like me, I taught at Governor State, and I taught at Governor State for 10.5 years, and I taught at St. Xavier for about 3 years. How did I get those jobs? So what if I had a PhD? I knew somebody. It's a shame. Just like most jobs nowadays, you got to know somebody.
That's true. They say it's not what you know, it's who you know. It's more important.
And that's sad. Because how many of us know somebody? You growing up in the ghetto, you growing up in Roseland. Everybody you know, ain't nobody got a job. So who the hell can help you? Your mama, she working 3 jobs, and while she out there working, you out there trying to hustle to get some more money. So you do silly shit. See? They can't catch grandma going to the L station no more. So now they got to go to the gas station and jack your car. See, mama ain't going to the L station to work no more. Because after the pandemic, a lot of people got laid off and didn't go back to work. But they know if you're in the car, you got some money, so I'm going to hijack your car.
That's true.
Yeah. Okay, they say black on black crime. People gonna commit crimes against the people in their neighborhood. You see? They're not going to go to the north side. So there's no such thing as black on black crime. People just commit crime in their neighborhood. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, it did. It really did. Because that's something that gets brought up because we talk about the flaws within the public schools. We talk about the issues when it comes to funding, and a lot of people, mostly white people, a lot of them talk about, well, school choice. And school choice pretty much means charter school. That's pretty much a word for charter school.
And charter schools are just giving More money to who? Rich people. That's why they like. Do you know some charter schools are on the stock market?
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, because it's a money making device.
Mm-hmm.
They're making money off your child. They don't give a damn about your child. They're making money off your child.
Yes. And because charter schools are privately owned, they don't have, I know for a fact that they don't have to have the same policies and regulations that public schools do. So a lot of charter schools have incredibly high levels of anti-black racism going on in the schools.
And not only that, but they can get rid of the bad kid. The kid don't want to cooperate. They just say, hey, mama, come and get this kid, take his ass home.
Yeah.
Whereas in the public schools, you got to teach anybody that come. But see, the main thing is this, is that, as I told you, you're teaching kids with 200,000 years of knowledge. They're not dumb.
Mm-hmm.
They're not dumb. The only thing is that you got to nurture them. You got to nurture a black child so that she can be successful. You see, the average brother don't have a job. Why? The average brother don't have a job the same reason he don't have a girlfriend. See,
no, because
he can't step up. When he step up to that girl and she say no, he didn't give up. When average black boy go out looking for a job, he get told a no here, get told a no there, he get told a no after 5 no's. Instead of him saying maybe that sixth job might be a yes, he'll just give up and then go, hey, I'll just go to the boys and rob somebody, or I'll just go to the boys and do something slick. Whereas that sister, she can get 8 or 9 no's and she gonna keep looking. Think about when you was looking for a job. Think about the whole point. It crushes you. As a man, you can't take disappointment. That's why a lot of brothers, when they step up to a girl and then she don't want to talk to them, they just get shy. You see. But I learned when I was growing up is that the average beautiful girl, she don't even think she's pretty. And
it's true.
And an average beautiful or pretty girl, nobody talks to them. That's why the ugly boys who would go talk to them, they had the pretty girls. You see,
I know that's backwards. That's very backwards. But that's how it works.
Don't you see a lot of ugly guys with beautiful women?
You do.
They step up. They step up. See, they step up, and that's the same thing when it comes to a job. You got to step up. You got to try to go out there and see if you can. You got to go out there and try to win. It's about winners and losers. See, my last name is Winters, but nobody called me Winters. All my life they say, "Hey, Winters." Wait a minute. My name is Winters. Okay, come here, Winters. I told you my name was Winters. They said, "Come here, Winters." So I said, "Damn, maybe I'm a winner, boy."
Right. It's not a bad last name.
Yeah, but it's still rough.
It's not accurate. There's some questions in the chat room. Sister Keisha. Oh no, sorry. Kanisha. She asks, "Can I ask a question off subject about human creation?"
Yeah. Well, what about?
Yeah, she didn't. Yeah, you can. I guess that's your permission. You can ask a question. She hasn't asked it yet. We have another question, I think, from our sister Harlem 9. She asks, "Have you noticed as much of a difference in the education system for Black students with disabilities and Black students who are, quote, mainstream?"
No, there is no difference because see, nowadays I taught my last 17 years as a public school teacher. I taught special education because I taught special education. See, schools get extra money when they have a special education program. So what they do is that they get the special ed program, and then when they get the extra money, they use it for the entire school system. So what they did is that they told us that as a special ed teacher, I could pull the kids out, but they wouldn't. But after a while, they wouldn't let you pull a kid out who has special needs. You had to teach the kid in the same classroom. Now think about this. If you
So
got to
pulling them out means separating them. That's what that means.
Take them out and they work with you for an hour or two a day.
Oh, okay.
After a while, a lot of schools said, well, you can't take them out. You got to stay in the classroom with the kid, and you have to help the kid learn math or reading. Now listen to this. Show you how this bullshit this is. You got a kid in there because of the fact that he has a learning disability. He is in a sense reading at a second grade level, but he's in 8th grade. So if a kid is reading at a second grade level and he's in 8th grade, how's he going to read that 8th grade book?
It's not going to be able to.
If a kid is doing second grade math and he's in the 8th grade math program, and I can't take the kid out of the classroom and show him how to do the math where we're working together one-on-one, then how's he going to learn the math?
It's not going to be able to. It's going to fall behind.
So when that questioner asks the question, is there any difference between special education and mainstream education? I said no, because the fact is that they don't allow you to take the kids out and show them different strategies. See, as a special education teacher, you're a clinician. And a clinician, it means that you're kind of like a doctor or a nurse. And see, a kid in special education, he has what's called an IEP. And this IEP outlines the educational program that the kid can be taught from, you see. But see, when they won't allow you as a special education teacher to take the student out and work with him one-on-one, and you had to stay in that classroom with him, then you're wasting the time. And so then if you got a special education kid and he takes an 8th grade test, but he reads at a second grade level, is he going to pass the test?
No.
So then every day they're talking about why isn't this kid passing 8th grade level when his IEP says he reads at a second grade level. Therefore, if you was going to give him a legitimate test to see if he grew an educational program, you would give him what? A second or third grade test, right?
Yeah, a test at his level.
At his level. But they don't give a test at the level. That's to show you how stupid the whole system is. See, the whole system is to hold black kids back. They don't want black kids to be successful. Because, see, if you become successful, what that means in a sense is that you're going to maybe take away a job that white kid in the suburbs is supposed to get in Chicago. Remember, that white kid in the suburbs is supposed to get that job downtown, not you.
That's true. So the system is geared to really put barriers and hold black children
in the city. Because see, it's not hardly any jobs in the suburbs. Most of the jobs are in the city. Or now they got a few factories like Amazon is out in the suburbs. You know, they're out in University Park and other parts of the suburbs. But again, and a few factory jobs are out there, but a lot of jobs downtown that may not necessarily take a college diploma are in the city. And they want those jobs for people from the suburbs. See, the whole system is geared so that black kids cannot be successful. And they want black kids to act up in school. They want black kids to be fuck-ups. Because when those black kids act up in school, when those black kids graduate and they know they didn't try to learn anything, then they will blame themselves instead of blaming the system.
Yes.
See, it's like finding a fool. Is there another question?
Yeah, somebody else has a question from Q Numdrum. Oh, that's a cool name. Q Numdrum 93 says, following the thought process of Dr. C. Lawrence Jones Penny of Wood School and Dr. Umar Johnson, are black boys better off taught by black educators than white?
Sometimes, because see, sometimes, like I told you, I met many black female teachers who grew up in the projects. but are now afraid of black boys. And I've found some white teachers who weren't afraid of black boys, and they were good teachers, and they would try to do their best. So it's very difficult, because see, every black person, just because they're a teacher doesn't mean that they love the race.
It's true.
And I mean, I'm quite sure, Afro Elite, that you had some black teachers you knew they didn't give one damn about you. I got my education. You got to get yours.
Yeah, it was just a job to them.
Yeah,
and they was going to get paid either way.
That's right. So I'm sorry to tell you this is that Dr. Umar is wrong. And see, Dr. Umar, he wanted to start a school, and he never could get that school started. You know why? Because he didn't understand you got to have some of your own money. He didn't work long enough to gather up enough of his own money. When Tariq, in a sense, he wanted to do this museum. And he said he wanted donations, but all the money for that museum, he had to add some money onto that museum himself.
That's true.
Come on now. But see, he allowed himself to make some money. See, what did if you remember when we talked the other day, when you and I and Dr. Short, we talked about Harold Cruz. What did Harold Cruz say? Harold Cruz said, if you want to have any wherewithal, if you want to have, in a sense, a strategy for success, and to be able to form a revolution, you have to be able to own something. You got to own something. Umar has a good idea, but he doesn't own something. And because he doesn't own nothing, then therefore he has to hope that he can beg somebody to give him the money. We got people out there with plenty of money, especially black athletes, but they don't want to donate. But you got to have something of your own. See, like if you hire a teacher, you got to be able to, if you hire an entering teacher nowadays needs to make at least somewhere between $31,000 and $35,000 a year. But in addition to that $31,000 to $35,000 a year as a teacher, you also had to provide them with a medical plan. You also, in a sense, had to provide them. You had to pay unemployment compensation in case of that teacher being, losing his job. So although you may be paying that teacher $31,000 to $35,000 a year, you still had to pay an additional $25,000 to $30,000 for the medical expenses, the medical plan, all that type of stuff. Even if you pay in a medical plan, see. That's why a lot of people when they work on a job, they can't get the medical plan. Or they might get a medical plan for themselves, but then they may try to, like if you're in the state of Illinois, you may try to get a medical program that can pay for your kids' medical, because you don't make enough money.
Yeah.
It's hard. Yeah. That's why your generation, y'all not going around marrying nobody in no 25 to 30. You might want to get married, but you can't get married because you need more money. I got married when I was 19, but they had jobs back then. And I had a woman who was ready to love me, and she was my wonderful. She supported me 100%, and she loved black people. She loved the race. But nowadays, if you get a woman, if you lose your job, your ass is hit the road, Jack. And don't you come back no more, hit the road, Jack. And then for you sisters, sometimes you can be with a man, and if you lose your job, he wants you to get out too. My son, I tell you, he's about what, 54. He's about 54. When he got out the Navy, I said, when he got out the Navy, I said, what's your line? What's your line when you talk to a lady? He said, oh, my line, Pops, is, he used to call me Daddy-O. He said, my line is, where do you work at? Because nowadays it takes two salaries, right?
Yeah. Take two incomes, yeah.
It's very hard for you to have one wife taking care of you,
Yeah. I'm going to get to a couple of these other questions because I'm not going to keep you on too much longer. You've been so gracious with your time. But Kanisha asked, how did the Homo sapien, I think that was typo, how did the Homo sapien come to be different from the Neanderthal and other homins they say were here. I've seen you say that they were basically more robust black people. So how did we change?
How do we change? Is that we change? See, this is the whole point. The original Neanderthal, they were called to be they were said to be ugly because the white man found that the original Neanderthals, in a sense, they were Negroid. The only difference between the Neanderthals and black people was right across this bridge. It sticks out. Like if you notice, an Australian, most Australian Aborigines, their forehead around the bridge, it sticks out, and so that was the difference. But see, over time, that bridge recessed, and it doesn't stick out that much. And that's why we talk about Homo sapiens and Homo sapiens sapiens. Homo sapiens sapiens are modern men, and we don't have that protruding bridge that hangs out. But the Neanderthals were black. See, the Neanderthals were black, but they just had that bridge, so it wasn't really a difference. But see, the white man, he tries to hijack the Neanderthals and say that the Neanderthals were ancestors. But we know the Neanderthals were black. They didn't have white skin or light skins. Now they try to show you Neanderthals that have light skin, blonde hair, red hair. That's all bullshit. See, because the European doesn't have a history. And because the European doesn't have a history, he has to hijack everybody else's history. See? But he originally said that the Neanderthal was dumb, slow, because of the fact that the Neanderthal had Negroid features. And they hated the fact that when they found that the earliest man in Europe was a Negro, then they didn't want to admit to that their ancestors were black. But see, Europeans don't come from Europe anyway. Europeans come from Central Asia. Europe was a black continent. You can read my book, The Prehistory of, Blacks in Europe from Prehistory to Modern Times. I got a book on that. I've written about 40 books. I wrote a book on the history of black people in Europe. But Neanderthal and black people were the same. The only difference was they had that bridge. Nowadays, the Aboriginal people in Australia, that bridge is protruding, but it's not as far out as it was for the Neanderthal man.
Okay, so the follow up is, so the Neanderthal bone structure was not more robust than modern man.
No, it was. It was more robust. As I said, that bridge was more protruding. It came out further, and us, our bridge is kind of flat. Now, that's the difference. So they were more robust. But the point is this: is that when they talk about evolution, we didn't evolve from apes. Nobody evolved from apes because see, the theory of evolution is a theory, and it's not even a theory. See, in a theory, you have to be able to test a theory to prove that theory is correct. We don't see fish walking out of the ocean, turn into an amphibian, and then turn into a man, then turn into a monkey, then a man. So evolution is not even a theory. Evolution is just a construct that they developed and they teach you. Because they can't prove evolution because they can't find a missing link. But you have to understand that the black population, there's not one homogeneous black population. The original black people were the Neanderthals. Then the most ancient Homo sapiens sapiens are the Aboriginals. The Aborigine people, they evolved around 100,000 years ago. Then around 44,000 years ago, we had the Khoisan. And then the Khoisan, they went into Europe, and it was the Khoisan people who became the first Cro-Magnon people. so we have the Australians first, then we had the Khoisan. Then after the Khoisan, around 25,000 years ago, we see the origin of the Pygmy people. We call the Pygmy people the Twa or the Anu people. So they came about 25,000 years ago. And then after 25,000 years ago, around 10,000, we began to see the modern black people like us who are kind of, some of us tall, some of us short, you see. The Asian people the earliest evidence of what we call the modern Chinese people was around 1000 BC. That's when we see them coming to China and drive the black people out. The earliest, there were some white Arabs, but the earliest Caucasians, they don't show up until around 1200 to 1500 BC. Then they come on the scene.
Mm.
But originally, the whole world was just inhabited by black people.
Yeah.
Very
true.
And then God, I guess, whatever, some white people and Asian people come down from the mountains and then they take over. It's all bullshit. See, but if you remember, Egypt lasted for what? 3,000 years, 4,000 years, 3,000 years. Egypt lasted 3,000 years. But no white civilization has lasted longer than 200 years. That's why even now we see America is going into decline. Because they can't hold it, because they can't hold a civilization because they're too selfish. Americans were the most blessed people on the planet, and look how they treat the poor. Look how they treat the less fortunate.
That's true. Our sister Kenesha says she has 10 of your books and she really admires your work.
Thank you, Kenesha, and I hope you enjoy it. And I hope one day that you'll get some ideas from my book. And you know what, Kenesha? I hope one day that you'll write a book. I don't mind being replaced. No, I don't. I don't mind being replaced. See, a good teacher wants people to come up and take his place. See, that's what a good teacher does. A good teacher, in a sense, see, black people, we don't know how to think about that because, see, we've been conditioned to feel that anytime we see a black person, we got to pull them down. And we feel we got to pull them down because that's what the white man taught us during slavery. But we should really be building each other up. And I'm quite sure Kenesha got a lot of good ideas. And I hope one day that Kenesha might write a paper or write a book. And let us hear from your ideas, Kenesha, because you got something to tell us. You got a way of thinking. I made up this whole idea of CAIDS, culturally acquired immune deficiency syndrome. And what that is, that's a disease that black people get when they lose their ability to be immune to whiteness, and they want to be white, so they become they become absorbed like Jonathan Majors and others. But then one of the people in my Patreon, her name is Joan Caramonte. She said, Dr. Winters, I don't think it's just immunity, it's also identity. And I said, aha, she's right. A lot of times when you become so absorbed in trying to get those white thighs or getting that white penis in your mouth, a lot of times, in a sense, you forget who you are and you want to be white, but you can't be white. See, and yet it's a virulent disease, and that virulent disease is called white supremacy.
Yes. Shout out to our sister Kenesha. Thank you very much for your comment.
Kenesha, you're gonna make a significant contribution to our history and our civilization. You're a great sister.
Yes, I'm gonna get you our next question from our sister Harlem 9. She says, I noticed while teaching that some areas making teaching special education harder to get into, mainly because they wanted to cover internal abuse. Have you noticed this in your experience?
It's kind of complicated. See, as I told you, is that when I went into special education, I got a master's degree from Chicago State.
Mm-hmm.
And see, I understood that as a special education teacher, you're supposed to learn various teaching strategies. You're supposed to learn various ways to teach math, science, reading, so that you can kind of make the learning experience for that kid in special education positive. But it's not that they make things harder. It's just that, in a sense, nowadays they don't really teach you. They don't really try to teach you how to really teach children anymore. They don't teach you those various teaching methods that can allow you to instruct that kid in special education. But see, the only problem is that a lot of black people, period, when a lot of black people try to take a state education test, in the state of Illinois, to be a teacher, you had to take a test for whatever grade level you want to teach, or you had to take a test when you want to be a special education teacher. But the problem is that a lot of people failed that test. And the reason they failed that test is that they forget they may have taken a lot of their special education classes when they were sophomores and juniors. Now they're a senior about to graduate. And instead of them going back and looking at their notes that they took while they were studying special education, they go and try to take the test to be a special education teacher or any teacher, period, without studying. And that's how you fail. So you got to study before you take any tests. Because by studying, that means that you're going to be prepared to take the test. That's why many black kids don't pass state and district tests. When I was teaching with my old principal, we used to teach the kids how to take a test, how to pass a test. I didn't say how to cheat on a test, but how to take a test. And if you're confident and you've had practice taking the test, you're going to win. But after my principal died, Mrs. Ellis, she was an angel. We got these other black women principals, and they came in, and do you know what the bitches? I'm sorry. Do you know what those women did? They took all the practice test manuals and threw them away.
Oh,
because they didn't believe. They believe that white man shit. They don't understand that at white schools, they teach the kids how to take the test so they can pass the test. For these black people, they think that okay, if you taught a kid how to do algebra in September, and then after September, you try to teach them geometry. See, when you learn, let me explain to you. When you learn, you have to also forget. So if you already been taught algebra, when you teach geometry, you're going to try to forget a lot of the stuff that you learned in algebra so that you can learn how to do the geometry. And then after you do geometry and algebra, then you learn fraction. Okay, you don't take the district test until June, until around April.
Mm-hmm.
So you take the district test in April. The district test has on it algebra, geometry, and fractions. But you forgot a lot of the algebra and geometry because of the fact that you took that back in September, and you took geometry back in December. In December. Therefore, if your kids are going to pass the test, you got to revisit geometry, revisit algebra, revisit fractions, give them that practice, and they'll pass the test. It's simple. See? But black people, a lot of black people, because they believe that white shit that they read in the damn books, they believe that white people don't practice to take tests. And they think that these kids who would have to forget certain shit that they learned months ago are still going to remember it today. It's sad, very sad. Many of our teachers, because of the fact that they got K's, they don't believe in themselves. They believe that white is right. And they believe that everything that white men tell them is the truth. And therefore, they can't help the kids learn because they're waiting for the white man to tell them the right way to learn. And that white man is not going to tell you how you can learn. Because if you teach your kids to be winners, then you're making the kid that's going to take a job away from that kid in the suburbs. So they want you to fail. They want black kids to fail because that means that white kids always have more and greater opportunities.
It's very true. Well, it's very true. And you've been giving us, I appreciate you so very much, Dr. Winters, because you've been giving us so much inside analysis on not just the Chicago public schools, but homeschooling, charter schooling, and just the issues when it comes to schooling and teaching in general. So this has been filled with much more knowledge than I even anticipated setting this up. So I want to thank you for your time and thank you for everything you've been doing. Now, I've been keeping you, we've been on for a little over 2 hours, so I'm not going to keep you too much longer. I want to give you the opportunity to, if you have any final words or statements, you can say that right now for the audience.
Okay, well, for our family, I'd like you guys, if you can, I'd like you to join my Patreon. My Patreon, go and look up Clyde Winters on Patreon, join my Patreon. And the Patreon helps support my research. It helps me to be able to write books, articles, and things like that. because a lot of times I have to buy these books. These books can cost as much as $100. And by people joining my Patreon, it helps me to become, it helps me in a sense to be able to do the research I do. Also, every Thursday, I'm on Dr. Shock Matthews' platform, and we talk a lot about history. This week, on Thursday, we're going to be talking about Cleopatra, and the Egyptians, and also I'm going to finish my history of Islam in America, back in the day. So join me on a Reverend Shock Matthews platform on Thursday at 3 p.m. We're going to talk more. We're going to talk up more about Cleopatra, and we're going to talk about the early Muslims and the revolutions that they had in Brazil, Suriname, and stuff like that. Join my Patreon, and thank you very much. I want to thank those people who sent me cash apps. Thank you very much for your support, and everything is welcome, And the thing is, this is that love Black people, and I love Black people because see, the thing is, this is that we only got us. You only got you, and I only got you. What did I say? I said, we only got you, and I only got you. Because we're as one as long as we understand that we're in this fight together. Thank you for allowing me to talk on the subject, Afro Elite. And me and Dr. Short will be back again talking further about books.
Yes, absolutely. People are going to love that. Thank you very much. To the audience, his Patreon, I have it, our sister Star, put that in the chat room. So I have that pinned at the top of the chat. So that's the link that's pinned at the top of the chat. So you just click that link, it'll take you straight to the website, and you can sign up.
Yeah, because on May 26th, 27th, I'm going to do a live for my YouTube channel. I'm going to do a live on the first aeronautical ace, which was Ramses I. You guys didn't know that brothers used to fly in airplanes, did you? You didn't know that brothers had rockets. I'm going to talk about this, but it'll be on May 27th, May 26th, May 27th, whichever one is a Saturday. And you can see my live, and it'll be based upon my YouTube channel. But again, thank you guys for coming, and I hope I help some of you to understand how to maybe start a homeschooling program for your children. And it's very important to understand that on my YouTube channel, I have a lot of films on Black history. You can use these videos for your children to learn about our history. I got the history of Black people all over the world, China, America, all over the place. It's over 200 videos. Go there if you're trying to develop a curriculum for your children to learn about our history. And then I've got 2 good films on there now, videos now, that just deal with Afro-American Foundation of Black American history. And I got one that goes from the Aboriginal period, our Black Indian heritage. Then I go up to the Civil War. And the next one, I'm going to go into the Civil War on up to, emancipation up to the 1920s. And I'm trying to provide these materials so that parents, if you want your children to learn, or if you want to learn our history, the videos are on my YouTube channel. So I hope you go and visit it.
Yes, thank you very much. And all of those links, I'm going to have that set up in the description, so you guys can just go straight in the description. You guys can click the links to his Patreon, the links to his YouTube channel, the links to the website to get the books, all of that stuff. Make it very simple, make it very easy for you guys. Dr. Winters, thank you very much, and I can't wait to have you back.
Thank you. Have a good evening, everybody. Bye.
You too. Well, brothers and sisters, that was Dr. Clyde Winters talking about fixing Chicago schools. We really talked about fixing schools in general. I only said Chicago really because he's from Chicago and he's been teaching in Chicago, so that's really why. But we were just talking about schools in general. He talked a lot about Chicago schools, but a lot of what he had to say could apply to any type of school anywhere you are. So I hope that you guys really got as much game and knowledge that I got, because I learned a lot through this broadcast. So I really appreciate him for coming. Now, before we get off here, I'd like to make a special announcement. Me and our good brother, Black Alpha from the Black Alpha Network, we have a thing where we wanted to do, since this is the last week of Black Media Appreciation Month, what we wanted to do is we wanted to do a back-to-back live broadcast. So normally, you guys know I go live on Mondays. I don't go live on Tuesdays, but we're going to switch it up. So that's why I decided to go live tonight. And then right after me, but I hope y'all don't leave. Don't be leaving yet. Don't be leaving yet, because right after me, we have our brother Black Alpha, and the link to that I just put in the chat room. So you guys go click that link, because right when I close this down, he's going to start his broadcast right after that. And then we're going to repeat the cycle in reverse coming up this Thursday. So you guys do not want to miss out. So I have that in keep saying the description. I have that in the chat room. So you guys go click that chat room. There's about 80 people here right now. So I expect the second his broadcast start, 80 people to be flooding in the broadcast. It should just bam, be 80 people right there. So you guys do not miss out. You guys check our brother Black Alpha's channel out. Also, follow me before you guys get out of here. If you haven't done so already, follow me on my various social media platforms, which is at Afro Elite on Instagram and at The Afro Elite on Twitter. Don't miss out. We have really great content. We got a lot of great content coming up for the rest of the week. We're just getting started. You guys go to Black Alpha's page. You guys go check our brother out. Show him some love. Show him some support. Also, let's be appreciative of our Dr. Winters for coming here and giving us such good game. You guys go support his YouTube channel. Y'all go support his Patreon. Get his books like our sister Kenyasha did. Also, too, hit the brother's Cash App up. That's Olmec98, $Olmec98. That's his Cash App. So let's bless our brother like he blessed us. Let's bless our brother with some Cash App money. And with that being said, my brothers and my sisters, I bid you all a good night. Be one salute to every single last one of you all. And you all, of course, have a good one.